tuned up.
A little bit, a
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, nicely
So how
done.
are you?
I've been good. It's started the podcast in January and kind of just having fun with it. It's been a way to connect. I haven't really left the house, and when I do, it's just like everyone else, in and out, and it is
Totally.
what it is, right? So this is a good way to connect.
It is what it is for sure. And I mean, like obviously you're blowing it up with the YYC influencer page, and now I mean you from January to now. I mean you've had some great guests. You've had some pretty notable people within the community, and you have a following that's building quite quickly as well. So kudos to you. I don't know what the business plan looks like for that. Something maybe we can have a coffee over. I got to figure out how to do it properly as opposed to the half-ass effort that I put into that stuff.
Are you working right now, or?
Yeah, yeah, working, yeah, full time. So it's keeping me quite busy. And then with the little ones, yeah, it's pretty full on.
And what about ways to keep yourself fit during these times?
You know what? I just kind of I do. I prior to lockdowns, I was training at the West Springs F45,
Yeah.
and absolutely love the workouts there because it's kind of a nice combination of lighter stuff, what I used to do when I was competing, but it gets you really fit and you push yourself pretty good. And the owners and the trainers are awesome there. And then when that's been locked down, I just really, I mean, I'm a Bonesian, so I live in Bowness. So
Nice.
Bowness High School is just down the street. I can go play around on the field, run around, do some stuff there, and just nothing too regimented, nothing too specific.
I love the community of Boness and the park, and just
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah, with the kids, the park being so close, where you can walk to that. It's a great. I mean, you really get a good sense of what Calgary's like in Bowness Park because it's so cultural, so diverse. You get all sorts of different family groups from all over the city to come there, and they're barbecuing and they're celebrating and playing cricket and frisbee and throwing the football around. And that's a big reason why I love that area. It's just you get to see the best of everything going on.
And it's kind of an escape, isn't it? It's like we're in our city, but we're not. It's just trees. It's beautiful, especially summertime. Oh,
Totally. Totally. And the only thing I haven't done yet is like disc golf, and there's like a course apparently just across the river from it. In I can't remember the name of the park on the other side of the river, but might have to give it a shot this year.
oh, that'd be awesome. And I see
Yeah,
a bow hunting.
yeah. I got my two bows. I got a few of them, but those are my two traditional bows up there. I got a longbow and a longbow. The top one is a longbow that was made in Latvia by a Northman, a company called the Northman, and it was a gift after the Sochi Olympics. So on the handle, there's a plate of bone, and on it has my initials and the Olympic rings engraved into it. So it's something my family and my wife and friends all pitched in for. And then below that it's a recurve by a company down in the States called Black Widow. So it's
Wow.
yeah.
And both are functional, or are they more for show?
No, very functional. Yeah, I shoot. I haven't done a ton of shooting this year, but I love shooting archery. Like they're called 3D competitions,
Okay.
or just 3D courses where you're outdoors and you're shooting at targets in the woods. And then I haven't done much hunting with my traditional bows yet, but definitely plan on doing more of that in the future. But you need to be real good, and you need to shoot a lot to feel
Yeah.
comfortable going out into the woods with it.
You truly have like one shot, don't you, with the bow when you're out there?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and if you want to do it right, you want to make sure that you're going to put it in the right spot so it does its job quickly, and you can then go ahead with the rest of the process and get the meat home and get it butchered out into the freezer as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is not live, so that's a good thing. But I was wondering about
Well,
PETA.
that
Do
doesn't
people?
bother. I'm happy to talk about that. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
you gotta hide on the back. Hang on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's yeah, I don't mind talking about that. I mean, like I'm pretty. I was an arch. Like I would call myself like an archer before a bow hunter for about. I shot a bow for about 10 years before I started hunting, and then when I came to Calgary, and the hunting community is pretty cool, and there's some really good people that I learned a lot from in the community. So it's definitely it's a good one. It's a good area to be in Canada for that sort of pursuit.
Yeah. What kind of animals do you hunt usually?
Anything deer, elk are mainly the three that I go after, like mule deer, whitetail deer, and elk. And then I'll do some bird hunting as well. So pheasants, grouse, and sometime I haven't done duck in a long, long time, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Is it tough to get a bird compared to an elk?
much easier to get a bird than an elk.
Really? Okay, I
Yeah.
would have thought the other way because it's so small and
Well,
tiny.
oh yeah, I use a shot. I mean, I've shot a pheasant with my bow, but mainly if I'm bird hunting, I'm going out with the shotgun.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely a bit of a different game. Like, yeah, it's with a with a bow is quite an accomplishment to shoot a pheasant in flight with a bow. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. What are
Yeah.
the kilometers an hour they go? Like when you shoot them?
These two are like the traditional bows shoot slower. So my compound bow is also under my bed in a case.
I love it.
My compound bow shoots. Um, so there's a couple components to like when you're hunting and shooting an arrow. It's you have the speed at which the arrow flies, and then the weight of the arrow, and then the
Okay.
speed plus the weight essentially equals the energy that's traveling as a projectile.
Right.
So a heavier with a slower bow, you want to shoot a heavier arrow because it creates more kinetic energy, and you want to get the broadhead in as far as possible if it's not a straight pass through. So my compound shoots just under 300 feet per second, and my two recurves are just around 200 feet per second.
And are they 4-star or 2-star heads?
I shoot on my compound. I shoot a three star, a three blade fixed, and then on my recurve and longbow, I shoot a big, fat a forged two blade broad. I'll just get it for you.
Wow, that thing is massive.
So that's the look of that's the broadhead on it's just a two blade. It's like, I think it's close to 2 inches, and then a composite feather fletch on the back. So yeah,
No, that's awesome.
yeah, it's fun. That's for sure.
They're a lot bigger than I imagined. Wow.
What's that?
The bow itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so the longbow is a 60-inch longbow, so that's quite
Yeah.
big. It's a big one. And then the recurve, when you when you when you put the string on properly, it compresses everything and makes it quite a bit shorter. And that's why you have those recurved tips on it, because what happens is it starts to enable the what the wood is supposed to do on the limbs. So it's storing. That's where a lot of that energy comes from.
And is it plastic feathers or is it actual real feather?
I have half and half. So there's a turkey feather. It's a turkey feather. If it's like a traditional feather, it's like a turkey fletch.
Okay.
And then I have I can't remember the name of it, but there's a company came out with um, essentially a very soft composite material that act and respond as the same similar to a feather fletch. And the good thing about that is that when you think about it, if the arrow shoots off of a piece of wood, so if it's something thick, it actually will deflect the arrow right off the rest. So it compresses and feathers compress nicely, and then it opens up, and then it'll start to rotate as it
Wow. That's
leaves the
super
shelf.
cool.
Yeah,
Wow, that's awesome.
it's
Congrats on
fun.
doing that. That's an awesome hobby. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. A teammate got me into archery a long, long time ago, and just with kids, it's been a little tougher to get out, but definitely have some fun with it.
You got two young ones, don't you?
Yeah, my daughter is 4, and then I got a son who's a year and a half now.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
Keeping you busy. That's good.
Oh, that's an understatement, buddy.
Yeah. So, you do archery, you got family life, and your past is very interesting. I mean, you went from football to bobsledding. Is that a common path? I mean, we've seen that with Lyndon Rush, but do
Mhm.
others have that as well? That's
So
similar.
yeah, it is in Canada because bobsleigh is a late entry sport, meaning
Mm,
that nobody in Canada as a kid grows up wanting to be a bobsledder. It's hockey and football and soccer and more traditional accessible sports. You go to Germany and there's 6 or 7 tracks in the country of Germany alone. So it's more accessible. Here it's Whistler and Calgary, and that's it. So what Bobsleigh Canada does, and this was very similar to Lyndon's path and my path are quite similar, is that he got recruited out after playing with the University of Saskatoon. I got recruiting letters when I was playing with McMaster, but never really paid much attention to it because my goal was to go play professional football. It wasn't until 2009 that I got a call from then the high performance director, Matt Hindle, asking me to come out. And I was kind of at a point in my football career where I was going to go into free agency. I'd had a couple season ending injuries, and my dad encouraged me to go try it. But they generally look for bigger athletes that can move fast. Moving a sled is, it's a sled is a 2-man sled's 170 kilograms. A 4-man sled has to be at least 211 kilograms. Mm-hmm. So you're moving a significant piece of weight. And generally, when you find an athlete like a bigger sprinter or a rugby player or a football player, they're used to moving force as opposed to
you
just
being a running back.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole thing. So it's being able to transfer like speed, but also move something in front of you. And then it's learning the technical aspect of how to do it properly and to do it faster and to load and to, learning how to do it, to push something is, it's as easy as it sounds. To be really, really good at it is just like any other form of pursuing mastery. It's looking at, you go from being able to move something like a sled, and take a second off of a push time to training 4 years to drop your push time by 2/100ths of a second. And that's where that idea of mastery really comes into something that kind of looks quite simple, which is just essentially pushing a bobsled.
That's awesome. Yeah. Is the bobsled, like the pushing part, is that where you gain leeway? Is that the timing pretty much where things really matter?
There's 3 components to the sport. There's the push, the drive, and then the equipment. And I think you can't win anymore without a push, because there's too many teams that have athletes that are just too good now that they create so much separation at the start. What a really, really good start does for a pilot is it gives cushion, and it gives them time on the way down, that if they make a mistake, that they have some stored in the bank because of the push. But you also need your runners, the steel that we slide on, we call them runners. We need those. We need to have the right runners on. They need to be performing properly. The sled needs to be tuned properly, and the driver needs to be hitting his or her lines as well.
What was your first experience like on a bobsled?
Oh, pardon my language, it was a shit show. It was awesome. Yeah. Like it was, I came to push, and I learned how to push in the ice house at COP. And then I got my first chance to go down the track in Whistler with Pierre Luders, who's one of the, legendary names in the sport, not just in Canada, like in all of sport.
Worldwide, of course.
Worldwide in the sliding sports. And it was a while. It's one of those things that like I kind of half-heartedly make jokes about it, because there's not really something that you can describe it as. So I jokingly say it's like being in a washing machine, and then you push the washing machine down a hill. the first time. But then the more times you go down it, then you really start to, and again, going back to that concept of mastery, it's like, without looking, can you know where you are on a track? Without seeing where you're going, can you feel if you're having a good run or not? And so that's really being, understanding like the feel of what's happening in the sled as you go down as a passenger, understanding when the tail end slides out a little bit. So really, Nicky Lauda, the race car driver in the movie Rush, talks about, he was like, I was gifted with a great or a smart ass or something like that. And like, he can feel what's going on in the car. And it's very similar to bobsled. Because there's no data telling you anything in the back or being able to see, you feel what's going on. So you learn to feel pressures and taps and skids and all those sorts of things.
Do you think one day we'll see technology in bobsleds?
bobsleigh is very, very, very similar to Formula One in the sense that there are haves and have-nots, countries and teams. And as much money and the ingenuity of an engineer being able to understand what the rules are and to play along those rules in regards to massive, there's always been technological developments, but it's technological in the aspects of how a sled, how a steering mechanism can move, or we're not allowed having technically suspension, but how steel or a frame responds to pressure. So it's more the understanding of the materials that are being used and how you can improve upon those to utilize energy better down the track. That's where that advantage comes in, really.
Are they all fiberglass or carbon fiber?
It's a mix of carbon fiber, fiberglass, and steel.
Nice. Yeah.
That's generally the what a sled is made up of, and duct tape.
I love that.
You gotta have some duct tape.
Once you completed that, I mean, you're still part of that career, but once you completed your football career, went into that, you've also started looking at fintech now. How
Yeah.
did that happen, that shift or addition, I guess I could say?
It was through sport, funny enough. I worked, I've been up until about a year and a half ago, I was working with my mentor in the finance and oil and gas industry, and who really helped me transition from sport to come into this next stage of my life. And, but I got to a point where, with everything going on in the market, it was time to look for something a little bit different. And I had met Jeff Adamson, who was a national team Olympic wrestler, and also one of the co-founders of Skip the Dishes.
Oh, no
And we
way.
met, we met through the sporting world. So it was through the CSI that we got connected, and he told me about what him and the other co-founders, Chris Reed and Andrew Chow, were starting to build in Calgary, which was Neo Financial, and really not having a place to, with a CV and a job description that fit like what I had been doing. Jeff and I had a few conversations and said, well, listen, you can hop on board the partnerships team. And if you want to be a part of something, and the idea of really being a part of a build with a technology company, timing wise wasn't great because my son was about to be born. But the opportunity was, I don't want to call it a once in a lifetime opportunity, but very, there's a few times in your life when if you put yourself out there enough, you're going to come across people that, and as somebody, for myself, I've always tried to find people who want to accomplish great things and surround myself with those people, because I truly believe that's how I learn the best as well. And I was never great in school. I was like a C student, never great just sitting in but doing and being a part of and watching. And that's how I learned. And that's how I learned to be better at doing other things as well. So the opportunity came up and after talking with my family, jumped on board. And, a year and a half later, we're continuing to scale and build and hire like crazy for multiple roles within the company. And, I've moved into a different position within Neo as well. And what really excites me about it is that we're doing something that is, if I can leave a small thumbprint on helping build a company that's going to positively impact Canadians all across the country, that's awesome. That's very exciting. So, and to be surrounded by people that also believe that, and not only believe in what we're building, but believe in the people that we're with, and have a career. And we're working hard. Don't get me wrong. We're working our butts off. Because when you take on a goal like this, I don't think you can do it
half-assed, right?
Exactly. Or if you do want to do it that way, people are going to go by you, and you're going to miss windows of opportunity, and it's going to take you how much ever longer. And the hurdles that you're going to come up to and the impediments that you're going to come up to are going to be that much harder to overcome, as opposed to working dynamically with speed and cohesiveness, with understanding that, we can solve problems quickly because we have a very talented group of people. We can get after things quickly, and we can separate ourselves. And it's just like I look at it very, very similarly when I'm leaving sport. I love the competitive aspect. I have a competitiveness about me that drives me for a lot of different things. And this is something that I don't feel like have to put that part of me aside. I can put it into something else. And so, when people talk about an athlete transition, especially in amateur athletics, can be a very, very difficult phase. When you've been a luge athlete or a figure skater since you're 12 years old and you retire at 30 and you're not even a third of the way through, hopefully a long life, and you don't know what to do with yourself, it happens to people in their 60s when they retire. So at 30 years old, being able to find something to put that passion into, it definitely makes that transition a bit easier.
Instead of a physical competitiveness, it's more mental.
Yeah,
It always has been mental, hasn't it, as well?
both. I mean, you're right. As an athlete, you climb, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, and you hopefully get to a point where you are maybe one day standing, holding a championship in your hands, and you get to retire. Very few people get to live that storybook type of ending. I didn't. I haven't been able to. But it was always physical and mental. And then the tough part is, and this is something that my mentor has helped me with, it's the mental aspect of what drove the physical. So being able to take then that mental determination and put it into skill sets, putting your ego aside, because you're starting back at the bottom. And that is a difficult thing to do. But understanding that if you can do it here, and then if you can figure out how to do it here, you will find a way.
Right. And for the listeners, what exactly is Neo Financial? And are you guys just still a small team of, like you said, 3, 4, or 5 of you guys, or has it grown now?
Yeah, it's definitely grown. We're at, a few hundred people now. So
Wow, good
yeah,
job.
Neo Financial is a technology company at the heart, and we do operate within the fintech space. And we are, we have a couple different products available, including a high interest savings account and two types of spend products through MasterCards. And then that's all paired with our digital app, where they can handle, essentially do all of their everyday finances, whether it's withdrawing money or putting money into the savings account, the high interest savings account, utilizing the credit card, doing e-transfers, or where my world is really working within the marketplace that we are building out across Canada of, local, regional, and national businesses that we are partnering with to showcase to our Neo customers. So it's taking the idea of the co-branded credit card relationship, which we all know exists and exists usually between a financial institution and a large enterprise, and providing that tool and that benefit to local and independent and regional businesses all across Canada, as well as some national brands. It's not just local. We announced a Hudson's Bay partnership, and we have taken over the co-branded credit card from Capital One recently, but it's the idea of that marketplace, which excites not only the customers but the partners as well.
That's huge. Yeah, I know. Everywhere I go in Calgary, I see Neo Financial on the window, or when you're inside, I'm like, God, who is Neo Financial? This is
Yeah,
awesome to see this come from obviously Canada, and it's very, I'm guessing, local in a way. It's locally focused, but nationally thought.
it's all encompassing, and that's the one thing we really like about it, and especially from the partnership side, it's we want to work with businesses that are looking to grow and scale and to do things different and utilize technology and build out a relationship that's meaningful. And it truly is a partnership. So we work together to create value. And that's the way in which, we've built this playbook out to continue to scale. And I mean, I would encourage you, I know a couple of people. So if you want to talk to Jeff or Andrew, I'd be, happy to make an introduction because if you want to talk to somebody who really knows the ins and outs
Of
of
course.
the space, they're brilliant people, absolutely brilliant people, and have had, some amazing success and experience with building Skip the Dishes, which is a Canadian founded company. And um, I know one of their whys they're doing this now is they don't want they don't want to see Canada as just to continue as an importer of technology when we can build it ourselves and we can do it ourselves and we can create jobs within our communities and we can support and work with local businesses. But I don't want to put words in their mouth, but um, really fascinating people to have conversations with on how they see and how they look at the opportunities within Canada to continue to build and grow technologies. And I think we're seeing a great movement right now with, companies all across Canada from, the East Coast to the West Coast. In Calgary, you have businesses and tech companies doing great things like Headversity and Simon, and it's awesome to see. It's really, really great to see.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to grab a coffee though, and even feel free to like reach out whenever. You should do your podcast though.
Are you talking about the thing that I posted on Instagram?
Yeah,
Oh, that was just a giant joke. And everybody was like actually asking.
that is so funny.
Then I started messaging Gail. I'm like, dude, we got to do one. We're just going to do one podcast. It's going to be 6 hours. He's like, man, I can't tell if you're messing with me or not. I'm like, I'm not messing with you. He's like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, everything.
Everything and anything.
Everything. He's like, are we going to have guests? I said, absolutely. Whoever we want, we're going to do it all. One podcast. So it never really went beyond that, but it was definitely funny to chat about it.
Just leave it the public URL for Zoom open. Just let anyone come in.
Just let anybody come in. Just an open forum. Come on, join. We'll chat about some stuff. We'll get some. We'll find a way to get a couple really, really interesting people on there. We'll get Neil deGrasse Tyson on somehow. I don't know how.
He's so good.
It was so good. He's so good.
Yeah. Do you watch a lot of Joe Rogan?
Listen. I'm select with Joe, but just because it's such a long format. But it's like once a week I'll check who his guests have been, and then I'll download a couple of them, and then throughout the day it's either just playing or there's so much good content out there right now that it's tough to pick.
It is, yeah. Everyone's got a podcast, and there's so many that are really good, and you're just like, oh.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's Meat Eater is my every Monday I listen to the Meat Eater podcast, and that's it's a hunting and conservation podcast, and it's really well done. The guy who runs this guy by the name is Stephen Ranella. He's an author as well. So when you think of a hunting podcast, I know the judgment goes to what everybody thinks it goes to, but it's actually very well put together. He's actually a very good cook as well. So a lot of what he talks about is really conservation concerns within the lower 48. They do talk about hunting, and but they have some very cool guests on there, and bring the food component right into the middle of it all, which is a big reason why I do it also.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
There's a guy actually I follow on Instagram, Food and Field Podcast. Have you heard of him?
No.
I'll have to send you him. He just hunts. He's from Alberta, and he just hunts bears. He just got one yesterday or the day before, and
Yeah.
I'll show you. Look, I'm making it. This is what I'm making out of it. It's pretty cool to see. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I do like, with people who there's not everybody who does it right, but there's not everybody who does anything right. So when you find hunting can be a very, very sensitive subject with a lot of people. My sister is a vegetarian, some vegan sometimes as well, but we can have an honest conversation about a lot of things, because the majority of what my family eats is elk or game or fish that I'm fortunate enough to catch. We do a little garden in the backyard, so we try to utilize that as much as possible. But when you bring people into the process, some people don't want to know how the sausage is made, but those who do then understand and sausage is made literally and figuratively, they do gain a newfound respect for the reason why a lot of people actually go and get into the woods and go into the mountains to try to, shoot an elk or shoot a deer to bring it home to feed their families. And
What
it's
is,
delicious.
oh, I know, and it's fresh. And
It's
is there, people say when you do it yourself, there's a different taste, or you just feel different when you eat it.
for sure. I mean, it's just like anything, right? There's this, we've
Reward
been,
for working hard.
well, that it is a reward for sure. And I mean, you think about, if you want to go Joe Rogan-esque and you think about our DNA, I mean, we evolved through all of these time periods and, working together and hunting, large species like mammoths back in the day. Like, all of this is, to think that it hasn't been ingrained somehow into our DNA up until now would be silly. Um, and it is a very primitive pursuit, but it is a purposeful pursuit for a lot of people. And I've met people that grew up in hunting families. I didn't, but they never they'd never tasted beef until they were like a teenager, just because the food that was being brought to them was stuff out of that the mom or dad was going out and hunting in the woods.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Jesse, and looking forward to connecting, obviously in person. But if not, that we'll have to do another podcast, or I might crash your 6 hour podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great. I'll keep you in the loop if that ever happens. But well, yeah, we'll have some fun with it. I appreciate you having me on, Zach. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
if you want to speak with the guys at Neil, let me know. I'm happy to set that up.
Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
See you later. Eh? Yeah, have a good
Take
day.
care. Yeah, you too.